Excellent. We have a few minutes, and I wanted you to talk about Codex, for those listeners that are out there that may not know what it is, and a little bit of the background, and an update as of the time we're doing this recording in January of 2010.
Well, this is a very interesting subject. I'll briefly give a history of it, and try not to be elaborate because it angers me so much. After the Second World War, they, thank God, captured many of the Nazi leaders, and one of them they captured was a gentleman who ran the rail companies and literally made the rails that they brought people to their death in the concentration camps. And he also ran the pharmaceutical company Merck. And Merck, as you recall, was the very first chemical supplement manufacturer in the world in Germany. Well, they brought him to Muhlenberg and didn't kill him and put him in jail, and he was only there a short time. And after 7 years came out and had a lot of time to think, to scheme, and he went to the newly formed United Nations and then later the World Health Organization, one of the wings of the United Nations, with his colleagues and said, we're reformed now, we don't want to take over the world anymore and be white supremacist, etc. And what they really wanted is to take control of the world in a different way that would be far more effective than with armies, because they realized that they failed with armies. And eventually the world comes together against demons like that and stops it. So they said the real way we can control people is through food and medicine. So the great vehicle and the naivety that reigned at that point in the United Nations, and now it's become as corrupt as other institutions, is that people were do-gooders. And they said, that's great. So now you're going to put your resources and energy and brain trust behind feeding people and making sure everyone's healthy with modern medicine. And they said yes. They had a major plan to use those two vehicles to literally control humanity worldwide. And they had a very elaborate plan they were a little ambitious on, but realized that this would take a long time, and it has. We're talking from the 1940s, now we're at 2010. And how they've done it very, very well over the last several decades, or a couple of decades, is use the newly formed World Trade Organization. There's 177 countries in the World Trade Organization, every country with any sources of money or income or need to buy things basically is there. Every other country that doesn't have money, doesn't have a need to trade, they're not in there. So it's a money organization. And they have very strong separate laws that supersede, and they're attempting to make them supersede, the laws of the country. So national sovereignty is in question here. And the way they're going to implement with food and medicine is make it so that every country that's part of this trade organization has to abide by rules, the Codex rules, and just some of the highlights, and this goes on, it's a very elaborate thing, of the Codex rules, are that they want to control all nutritional supplementation. And why you should listen and perk up here is that when I spend time, which I do every year in Europe, there are many countries they have fully taken over, like Norway, like Germany, where you cannot really get legitimate supplements of any type, be it chemical or whole food varieties. The good doctors there are being searched down and threatened on a daily basis, and it's their intent to make medical doctors who they train in medical schools, again the glorified pharmacists, to be the sole proprietors of their chemical supplements. Because they realize the writing on the wall is that the public, educated public now, realizes that pharmaceutical drugs hurt you, and they really don't help in many cases. Not all, but many cases. And basically, now the next step is they're going to ask for the good guys, the pharmaceuticals, but they want total control of that. They don't want the health food industry to have that. So that's the first step. The second one with grains, we saw a little episode about 2 years ago where they falsely increased the price of grains by 3 times, saying we have a shortage, when that's an outrageous lie, since every country in the world that has a farming industry is paying their farmers not to grow food, billions of dollars every year, billions of euros every year, and also storing grains that are rotting. Here in the United States, between $2.5 and $3 million of grains are disposed of, thrown away every day, that are rotting in silos. So it was a lie to say we have a grain shortage. And what they did is they started to clean up or get rid of, in another way, another wording I should say, people who are not part of this economic engine. And it's in Africa, it's in South America, and many nations I've been reading now have people in that nation that do work a little bit that actually they have to spend 60% or more of the income they make to feed their family now. So think about how scary that is. And overnight, with one fell swoop, they pretty much made this their rule. Now, they are trying to get this in America. Now, anyone that's seriously interested in your future or that of your family and having control over your life, because we can take other controls away, but the one control that you don't want them to take away is your health care. In our latest magazine, which is called Remarkable Recoveries, I actually write an article about what Hippocrates has done and what we've committed ourselves to. After really sort of being lost in what to do about this and attempting and sniping at it, I hired lobbyists. I hired the 2 most important lobbyists in Washington for the natural health care industry. Beth Clay is one of those lobbyists, and Clinton Miller, a longtime colleague of mine. Clinton Miller was a big, big help back in the early 1980s when we stopped them from a full takeover of natural health care then. That was called the Quackery Bill and the Quackery Report. Well, here in the United States, Beth Clay was successful in, at least currently, temporarily, stopping them taking over supplements. But they're going to keep coming back and trying to take over and trying to take over. So we've hired these 2 lobbyists. We're looking for people who can give economics to this, because it's a very costly venture. People who can spend time and start to lobby other people and send things out in emails, and the larger the email list, the better it is for us. And if you stay in touch and look at a website we put together called POP, P-O-P, Protect Organic Power is what that means, campaign.org, POP, P-O-P, campaign.org. It will bring you updates on this. And then as time goes, we're just at the initial stage of this. We're going to be asking for more and more money and help on this if you are interested in the future. And so watch yourself, because they'll take everything away from you if they can, because these people are so greedy they can't see straight.